have to admit something to you this morning that I would just as soon be making different plans today than what I am. Normally it'd be last minute packing time, getting ready for the Israel tour, but things have been a little different this year. I did see that you were up on the Temple Mount, and to say that I broke the commandment of you shall not covet, yeah, sure did. How you doing,
Uh,
man?
how am I doing? Compared to many of my countrymen, I'm doing great.
Yeah, I know.
It's all relative. Like people said, my God, October, November, December, you earn 50% of your yearly income. How on earth are you going to make it? Have you even paid back the money you borrowed during COVID? So I said, but at least I still have the same apartment.
Yeah.
I didn't have to flee. And for now, and we've got bottled water back on the shelves. So,
Wow.
we're doing great. Anyway,
Yeah, and you're not
first of all,
eating meals rejected by everyone.
no, at least not yet. Okay, first of all, let's start
Okay,
with some
go.
really good news at the top. A very, very happy birthday, Yom Huledet Sameach, to my dear friend, Kathy Clayton. Now, there are people who've said she's the nicer of the Claytons, but that wasn't me. I didn't start that rumor, Mike. Okay, so let's not. And I'm glad. I'm glad because it gave me a chance to smile and laugh. To wish Kathy a happy birthday. I did get a couple of comments from people that watch us regularly. Said, you're not smiling as much, Hanoch.
Yeah.
I wonder why. Okay,
Yeah, I know. It's
I wonder why.
yeah.
A lot to cover. Let's start. You mentioned the Temple Mount. I had the opportunity to go up on Sunday. There's a group called High on the Har, and they periodically bring groups up. It was very weird because they were going up at 8, which normally isn't a problem for me to get into Jerusalem, but the train service from Modi'in to Jerusalem has been suspended during the war.
Oh
And our
wow.
bus service from every 20 to 30 minutes is now approximately every 45 minutes to an hour and a half, and
Mm,
it fluctuates. So anyway, I got in. Rav Yehuda Glick was with us.
mm.
What was interesting is because of the war, Muslims under the age of 50 are banned from the Temple Mount.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about that.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah.
There weren't more than 20 Muslims on our Temple Mount.
Wow.
So it was a joy. I do have to tell you though, it's unusual for me to go with a Jewish group. I know that sounds weird to some of our listeners,
Yeah, I
but when I
know.
go up, I'm bringing up like our Connect to Israel group. Okay, makes sense. When you go with the Jewish group, you're isolated. Even I'm talking about during the regular year, surrounded by police, and you're kind of taken away from everybody. And in the past, at least, they videoed to make sure that none of us crazy Jews attempted to pray publicly. This was very different. We were surrounded by police, and as someone like yourself who's been an instructor in firearms is far more familiar with this than me, who's largely an observer at this stage in life, to have our police, and these weren't the guys giving out traffic tickets the week before. This is
Hmm.
a specially trained unit. To have him with his finger right next to the trigger was a very unusual sight. Very unusual. But what was amazing was now, as I mentioned on my little video, and people say, "Wow, Hanoch, your video has gotten more likes than any video you've ever done." And I think the reason is because it was 1 minute,
Yeah.
just 1 minute. It was a very emotional time. Rav Glick, and by the way, that was the anniversary in 2014 when he had his
Oh
assassination
wow.
attempt.
Yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, so much is going on in these few days. He didn't mention that at all. And I actually met him on October 29th, 2015, right before our Connect group came that year. Anyway, make a long story short, so Rav Glick recited the special Misha Berach, the blessing for the soldiers of Tzahal, of the IDF, the special prayer for the captives. Now, again, the police were okay with that as long as none of us did our take 3 steps back, 3 steps forward, and bow.
Yeah.
As long as you can't do that. You couldn't go up with the talit, you couldn't go up with tefillin. Okay, so it was very, very emotional, and I'm still just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
Today, starting last night to today, is the 33rd Askara memorial since Rav Kahana was assassinated.
Oh.
Rav Kahana was assassinated by Al-Qaeda in New York City. That was the first act of Islamic terrorism in the United States of America. The assassin, El Said Hanosser, had boxes of materials in his home in Jersey City that were in Arabic that the police never bothered to translate. Until 1993, the first World Trade Center bombing, when they found out that all these guys were linked. I could go on and on about what Rav Kahana taught. What was fascinating is in studying what he taught about Parshat Lech Lecha, was the war that Avraham fought, Avram still at the time, for Lot, was Hashem's war. This was what we call today a milchemet mitzvah. This is a war that you have to fight. We're fighting the human part of Hashem's battle, and that's exactly what's going on today.
Wow.
All of our listeners are aware that the ground action has begun for several days now. What you may not realize is that where our troops are right now in northern Gaza, that is Gush Katif.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you would know that. Now, of course, today I'm wearing Lo Nishkach V'Lo Nislach. Don't forget and don't forgive. And on the back is all the communities of Gush Katif. It is frighteningly shocking when history, the present, and the future all come in tied close together. I would love to say that we've returned to Gush Katif, never to leave, but that's not the case. That is not the case.
Keep going.
I just took a sip of water. Couple of things. Yeah. So when I was going down to the Harabayat, the Temple Mount.
If nobody knows that, that's one of the streamers that was being worn by people in 2005 that I was able to get there. So I'm with you.
This is unbelievable. So I have to go down from the Jewish Quarter. I'm saying this to our listeners who may not be familiar with it, to the area of the Western Wall Plaza, the entrance, to go to the entrance, the one entrance that non-Muslims are allowed during certain hours of certain days to go and visit. We cannot pray. It is the only place. By the way, that is the one place in Israel where there's apartheid.
Yeah.
Where Jews and Christians are forbidden from praying publicly.
Yeah.
Anyway, as I'm going down, there's a woman coming up with multiple children. Again, from all of our listeners that have been to Israel and in the Jewish Quarter, this is a scene that you're familiar with. The children are what my mother, Aleh Shalom of blessed memory, would describe are like steps. There's like the 5, 4, the 3, the 2, all the kids.
Yeah.
And the little boy is wearing an orange Gush Katif shirt.
Oh.
And there is a video that I'll be putting up tomorrow. I'm going to wait till, I'm going to actually put it up since we're not going to be able to post this until this evening, my time, I'm going to post another video. This is a song that I came across. Sorry. From late spring, early summer 2005. It was one of the few Gush Katif songs that I wasn't familiar with. And in this one, it says, after they take our home, they're going to want Jerusalem, and Ashkelon will burn. Now, I mean, there's so much I could say about this, and again, I can dwell upon the architect of this, the general on the ground who did this was Shaul Mofaz, and he's patting himself on the back now for having done it. I just, it's the world has gone insane. Okay, speaking of the world has gone insane.
I need to, I'll probably, you're doing that. I think this reminded me, I have a video of standing on the promenade above the Western Wall just a few days prior to the Gush Katif pullout, the big prayer meeting that was there. I think I still have that somewhere. I'm going to post that when we get offline.
It is shocking. Now, what's even more shocking? The virulent and violent anti-Semitism worldwide, especially on U.S. university campuses.
Yeah.
Now, it again, coming from someone who, from the very time I could understand what people were saying, knew in the neighborhood that I grew up in that I was hated simply because I was a Jew, especially because I was a Jew. This shouldn't shock me, but we had the sympathy of the world for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Now, the massacre occurred on a Shabbat. By Sunday in Times Square, the next day, Times Square in New York City, calling for a ceasefire. We hadn't done anything yet. By the way, as information continues to come out, and again, I want to spare our listeners the horrors that I've seen and read. But the Kitat Konenut, the rapid response teams, performed unbelievably and saved hundreds and hundreds of Jewish lives. So it's tremendously gratifying that our dear friends at Hayovel, who already have such a fabulous resume of what they've done and are doing, now have, as you announced it, Project Itai, which is, excuse me, no, I was going to say if it's a little closer, you'll get to hear it in the background when the Iron Dome. I'm thrilled that they're doing that because clearly the next front, whether it's now during this war or not, is Yehuda and Shomron, Yosh, Judea and Samaria. There is a reaction across the country. Among the things, like people point to the fact that a month ago, we were the most antagonistic, not even disunited, hateful to each other, and now everyone's cooperating. So that's a wonderful thing. They point to the fact that the government, our government, has for years been trying to get Haredim, the ultra-Orthodox community, more engaged and joining the army and volunteering, and that's happening. By the way, not totally across the board. The very fact that relations between my government and the American government were also rubbing against each other, all of a sudden, seemingly, at least to date, are somewhat in unison. Not totally, but America has been far more supportive, frankly, than I thought they would be. What this is going to be in the end and what this is going to cost in the end, we're not touching base now. But there's another couple of
since I'm on this side of the pond, I think I can probably speak to that a little bit more. And let me say it this way: that the current administration is saying to Israel, "We have your back." Basically, it is my thought that behind the back of the one that has your back is a knife, and given the first opportunity, will seek to stab you. I mean, we see this with the current, putting the ambassador to Israel, which you might have some things to say about that. I don't trust this person. I don't trust any of them. And Israel, you stand alone, and you better watch out for friends that say they're friends and they're not.
No doubt about it.
That's just my 2 shekels there.
Yeah, no. So in the midst of all this, like people, I think one of the most beneficial things that I can bring is the things that I see and hear myself. And there's a phrase that keeps coming up in every conversation that I overhear. The term ein milim or lo milim, meaning there are no words. Yeah. This is, normally you say like, hey, Mike, what's up? What are you and Kathy going to do for her birthday? People start a conversation, but it's always ein milim. It is who from the family has been called up. Also, I'm hearing an expression that we haven't really used as much and as often since after the Yom Kippur War. And this is ma yeh, what's going to be? What's going to be? Are we going to war in the north now? Are we going to do it after? What's going to happen? Yemen is firing cruise missiles at us.
Yeah.
Iran's proxies in Syria. All of these things are in the mix. We're not currently in a two-front war. And what's interesting is there's also a war going on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to focus now at all, yet again, on what people are doing and what people are not doing. But there was a tremendous post that I shared, and it said, you were wondering what you would have done in the 1930s in Germany. What you're doing now is what you would have done. And that's all I'm going to say about it. And if you're happy with your conscience, I'm not looking in your direction. I'm not looking in your direction for help or salvation. Other little bits of news. First, good news, the number of people displaced in the South and the North, which were originally reported to be 500,000 people, has now been revised to 250,000, which still for Israel's population is astounding.
Yeah.
Now, people have been donating for these people all over the place. So in Modi'in, someone had to arrange to borrow a small warehouse, and they actually are having trouble now trying to get cubicles or something where they can sort this stuff out, so the extra large size guys don't have to go through the kiddie stuff. I mean, it's kind of funny. The spirit is high. There is no doubt we will win. The casualty numbers keep rising. Last night and already today, yet another young soldier from Modi'in. That puts us at about 9 already to date. The other thing, by the way, is amongst some elements of Israeli society, there had been a question about women in combat. Now, many of the combat units are not open to not co-ed, but there are units in the quieter parts, let's say along the Jordan border, which have both men. Anyway, make a long story short, the women performed outstandingly in the horrors of that Shabbat attack. Now, the other thing that's going around, I cannot confirm this. I did discuss it with our friend Udi when I was in Jerusalem, and I did discuss it with our friend Moshe Kopinski. No one knows, but it appears that Iran had orchestrated a coordinated simultaneous attack from Hezbollah in the north and Hamas in the south. Cannot be confirmed or denied. It appears, because everyone's wondering, so what's Hezbollah waiting for?
Yeah.
Well, they may be a little ticked off. Again, this is Hanoch's view of things. Why did why did Hamas jump the gun? Because they found out that there were 3,500 people near the border at a music dance festival. And that was too good a target, too many potential rapes, murders, and hostages. And being the savage Islamo-Nazis that they are, they jumped for it. But how did they know that this rave was going on? Because all of those Arabs from Gaza that had been employed by the Jewish communities, the gardener, the other one, because everyone's wondering, how did they have detailed maps for each community that they went to? For the kibbutz, where was the nursery where all the babies were kept? Or the videos showing that after the armed terrorists came in, all these unarmed civilians, including a guy with one leg on crutches, they came to rape, rob, and murder. And not all of the hostages, by the way, have been taken by Hamas or Islamic Jihad. Some were taken by private individuals. And again, this is a family viewed show. I cannot say what's going on with that, but that was even covered by Caroline Glick. One of the interesting things I mentioned earlier of a reaction, a sense that the Israeli Arabs cannot be trusted. I saw a webinar the other day with Ayelet Shaked. Ayelet Shaked is our former interior minister. She and Naftali Bennett ran together. I have voted for her, those two, numerous times. She's amazing. She is the chairperson currently of Schneider Children's Hospital, Israel's largest children's hospital. So people have been reaching out, wanting to do something for the injured children from the massacre on Shabbat. How many injured children are in Schneider Children's Hospital? And she had to look at them and say, we don't have a single one. Every child was either taken hostage or killed. Now, in the course of the conversation while she was interviewed, she brought up something interesting. Most of the pharmacists and pharmacy aides in Israel are Arab Muslims. Doesn't make you feel really good when you're going in to get your prescription, although here, at least, we get these little boxes of the magic tablets, as opposed to in America, where they're pouring things and they're putting it in a little vial. So she brought up the issue of why not, she was approached about this, why not train Haredim, ultra-Orthodox men and women? Now, but the thing is, for the ultra-Orthodox, you've got to have women's classes and you've got to have men's classes. But actually, people are working on it. I expect down the road, large changes in Israeli society after this.
Yeah. There has to be. There has to be.
There has to be. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's like I was on a Zoom yesterday with Tommy of Hayvel, Tommy Waller, and a lot of other people, and they were talking about. Tommy was talking about how Israelis are going out into the fields and harvesting because they're the Arabs aren't allowed. The Thai workers and various ones are not allowed in.
They're gone.
So
they left.
Yeah. I mean, this is amazing. I was thinking this morning, Hanok, one of my favorite places in Israel is the well there at the base of Har Brakah. The most amazing figs that I've ever tasted in my life. I was there with Daniel one year. This was 2012, I think, and we went down there. And these figs were huge. I mean, I'd never seen a fig that big in my life. And I took a bite of it. And my grandmother, of blessed memory, used to make fig preserves. And she would put, like half the jar of figs and half the jar of sugar, just to sweeten it all up. These figs were sweeter than my grandmother's fig preserves.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
They were overwhelmingly amazing. And I'm thinking, for some crazy reason this morning, I guess because, right now we would be planning to be there soon. Those figs are on those trees, probably rotting today because there's nobody there.
It's a big issue. It's a big issue. So volunteers have been going, groups of yeshiva students, even those that are here for a year study from abroad. The boys go one day, the girls' schools go another day. People ask me if I want to, harvest, persimmons, which I don't think I've ever eaten. But to make a long story short, my knee and my ankle are not well suited right now to do 8.5 hours of farm work. Plus, I have no way of getting there. But anyway, I was asked, listen to this, if I wanted to volunteer to work with the police at the checkpoint set up at the entrance to the city. The job is to assist the police walking over to cars and making sure that everything's okay. Now understand this. I'm unarmed.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were gonna.
Okay. So we all have watched enough American TV shows. I'm not going to walk up on a car with tinted windows and the visors down and a bunch of dark complexioned guys in there without my hand on a Glock or a Beretta.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's, Mrs. Young didn't raise that stupid a boy.
Yeah.
So no, I declined that opportunity.
And we're all glad to know that Israel is still not gone to the place of total insanity of giving you a gun.
Well, this is, what's amazing is everyone, like people say, well, I heard that, Ben Gvir said, yeah. In Modi'in, it's really simple. Unless you are an officer from a combat unit or served in one of the elite units, by geography. Now, again, 2.5 kilometers, I'm in Shomron, I'm in Samaria.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Right here, I do not qualify.
Yeah.
Even if I was sane, I do not qualify for a gun permit. It's unbelievable. Meanwhile, it's almost impossible for the average person to keep up with the news.
Yeah, it
And
is.
it's almost impossible to sort through the lies, and what is really galling me is my last three presentations in America have all been about Israel,
Yeah.
all about maps, all been about Judea and Samaria, Gaza, all of it. And generally it was well received. And people said, like, gee, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The average person doesn't remember that Israel withdrew from Gaza 18 years ago. There's not a single Jew. And they didn't realize also between 1948 and 1967, it was Egypt that controlled Gaza. There was also not a single Jew there. So when the Arabs talk about, well, for 75 years we've been occupied, wait a second, 18 and 19, that's 37. But truth is the victim in all of this.
Well, I saw
And
a
when I taught in
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When I taught in this last presentation, I had a special slide that said, from the river to the sea. And I could tell from people's reaction, they never heard that expression. Now you hear it every day, every single day. You can't watch a demonstration and not hear from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Yeah.
But again, because people don't know geography, we're talking about the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. That's the whole enchilada. That's everything.
Yeah. It's interesting here to watch how the news, I listen to usually Fox News, and it's interesting to see how they're trying to be, you know, pro-Israel, but yet there's this bend that just wants to drive them over to the other side. Why is it no one is asking the question when yesterday we saw the a bombing, attack in Gaza, and this huge crater is opened up, and there's there's this all these people that are there, and the news says in the refugee camp in Jenin, and nobody's asking, okay, so these people have had total occupation of this area for 18 years and haven't been able to get their people out of a refugee camp. Maybe that should, kind of spur somebody on to think that nobody cares about these people.
Well, here's another thing that I've got to say. There are no innocents in Gaza.
No.
Hamas was the duly elected government. Okay? Now, the reason Mahmoud Abbas has been serving his 4-year term as president of the Palestinian Authority for whatever it is, 17 years, is the reason there's no new elections there is because he knows Hamas would win and he would be out. In the universities, like Berzit University, the students have always voted for Hamas. Hamas, this is, the Americans use the term like radical Islam. There is no radical Islam.
No.
It's all mainstream Islam. This is who and what they are.
I guess I would have to say it this way. There is no peaceful Islam. There is only radical Islam.
Yeah.
Radical is the mainstream there. And that would be a program we could go into later on. But
yeah,
look, we're out of time. Thank you so much for keeping us in the loop of what's going on there. Be safe, and we will talk to you soon. Okay.
Shalom to all. Bye-bye.